Alright guys, welcome back to the video. So in this one we're going to be taking this ash crotch log and turning it into a whole bunch of slabs using my small shop bandsaw. So I've already cut into a few pieces of this ash and it looks absolutely awesome. So this crotch section should reveal some beautiful figures, so I'm super excited to get into it. So we're going to get ourselves set up and then we'll move right over to the bandsaw. So the first thing we need to figure out with this log here is how we want to go about splitting it. And so like I said, this is a crotch log, which means we have two sections of the tree, each veering off in different directions. And in this middle section here, there's going to be a ton of beautiful figure in that from all the stress that these two different limbs were putting on the center trunk of the tree. So this area here is where all of our beautiful wood is going to come from. So when we're slicing it, we're trying to slice it along this axis right here. The other problem is right now at its widest point at the top here, we are about 17 inches, which is not going to work very nicely on my shop bandsaw, which has a maximum 14-inch resaw capacity. So what we need to start by doing is taking a slice off of this side and a slice off of this side in order to get the whole body of this thing down to a width that I can actually cut on my bandsaw in this direction. So to make our layout a little bit easier, we're going to be taking this piece of plywood, cutting it down to 12 inches because that's the maximum resaw height of my bandsaw. A little side note here, I thought my Rikon Bandsaw could resaw more than 12 inches because it's actually advertised being able to resaw up to 13 inches. And without taking the guide bearing block off, I max out at about 12 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this piece of plywood down to 12 inches. That way when we screw this onto our log to use it as a guide in our first few cuts, that'll then give me a much easier time figuring out where I want to place and get my material out of this log. Okay, so we're now set up to make our first two sizing cuts. So because we cut that piece of plywood to be the final width that we want this thing so it can actually fit in the bandsaw here, all we have to do is run our plywood base against our little auxiliary plywood fence that I added in, and that'll let us cut both sides without changing any of the setup of the blade, anything like that. So we can just run through, cut those two sides, and that'll give us a width that we can then work from. Now we have a mostly squared up block. We're just going to start taking slabs off of this side here. We're going to be making 2-inch thick slabs off of this because I think that's going to be the easiest way. Plus with how much effort this is going to take from my bandsaw, I want to do as few of these as possible and save as much material as possible for resawing down the road so I can get as many different panels and thicknesses that I want out of it. But by taking it down to 2-inch slabs, it's going to dry a lot faster than if I was just leaving it in a big chunk like it is right now. So we're going to start by taking off about 3/4 inch off this face just to get through all that bark on there. Then we'll start moving down in our 2-inch section. So we should get about 3 pieces out of this, and that should leave us with some pretty cool looking material. Okay, so we've got this log all broken down now. We ended up getting 5 pieces out of it. I decided to split 2 of them another time, so we only have a 1-inch thick section. And I'm glad I did that because what this did is isolate the pith into an individual piece. Because what happened is the pith for our crotch section ended up in this piece, and then our pith for our bottom section, our wide bottom section, was both in this piece here. So all I did is I just split those again. So now the pith from both of these limbs here is only in this slab, so if they do end up cracking and spreading, they'll only take out this slab, whereas if I kept it all together, there's a good chance that they could take this slab with it too. So now this slab should be much safer in the long run to hopefully avoid any of that excess splitting. Same thing with this one, the pith of the bottom section in this end of the slab here. So just by splitting it, the pith is now fully isolated in this piece of wood here, and this piece of wood that is slightly smaller should be more stable over time. Then our last one here, I left it at about 2.5 inches thick. It's a nice beefy one. This is going to take quite a while to actually dry, but there is some potential to do more stuff with it when it is dry. So we can break it down into just tons and tons of 1/4 inch door panels, stuff like that. There's a whole ton of book matching options in here, which is why I wanted to leave this one. Now I was actually going to break it down, but I realized that my base to actually run it against the bandsaw was not stable enough, so I'd have to take off more material. All of that I don't really want to deal with at the moment. I'd rather leave the stuff as thick as I can. So this piece being nice and thick with none of the pith anywhere in it should give us some good results as time goes on. So all 5 of these pieces came out looking absolutely beautiful. We got a ton of crotch figure in here. I will show you guys some close-up footage of each of these slabs. They are beautiful pieces in my opinion. Definitely something I can't wait to use in a future project. And the one thing that I find the most interesting about this is normally with ash, I don't have any interest in working with the sapwood. I've actually done a lot of projects in the past out of ash, and it's a wood that I like working with, but the problem is most of the time from the lumberyard, what you're gonna get is ash sap, which is this really light wood all around the edges here. And typically I say that I don't like that because I find that it's not that appealing of a color overall. But when you get to work with just the natural wood right here, it's actually really interesting because you get this blend of colors in that. So you get a little bit of that heartwood, some of that sapwood. We got this figure running all through the sapwood here. So overall, when it does come time to actually use this stuff in a project, I'm not going to be nearly as picky with it as I am with lumber that I buy from the lumberyard. So it's going to be really interesting to see what I can do with these. This piece is probably going to take a year or so to actually fully dry up, whereas these other pieces should be dry in the next, 6 to 8 months. So we'll finish off this video with some glory shots of these pieces. I'm going to spray some water on them so we actually get to see them in their full glory and all that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be doing a few more like this. I've been going around and collecting a whole bunch of different woods. I've actually got some box elder, which is what we're going to be doing in the next video of this little milling series. And in case you guys don't follow me on Instagram, you might not know about this guy right here. This is a giant burl that came from that box elder tree that I collected some wood from. I'm not going to be breaking this one down in the shop because it's massive. It's way bigger than I could ever handle in my bandsaw. So I'll probably be taking this out to a sawmill in the spring sometime. I'm going to spend the winter trying to collect a whole bunch of different wood, a lot of specialty stuff like this, so that I can actually make a trip out to a sawmill much more worthwhile. This was a better find than I had ever expected to see, just going around and trying to collect firewoods. And overall, I'm psyched to get into this at some point, but that is going to be a few months away. Anyways, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.